This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. Got a great show today. Friend of the show, BTL regular, and I still need to get one of his jerseys. He's got one of the jerseys pegged for framing in the BTL studio, along with Frank Bradley and Charlie Hartley. Those are going to be the three signed. Like, I'm looking at the wall on the opposite side of the studio here, and those are the three that I want to get up there. Big, busy week in the world of bass fishing. And you know what? I typically kind of talk about it and bring the guest in, but Charlie's a bass head, a self-admitted fan of the sport and follows everything that goes on. We've got All-American wins. We've got a first-time Elite Series winner. We've got a slugfest coming up in the BPT at Cayuga. So we're just going to bring Charlie Hartley in to talk about all the... Oh, dude, that's my favorite magazine. What's up, Charlie Hartley?
I'm just catching up on my international coverage in Basser.
Now, I believe in Basser, you're supposed to read that right to left.
Yep, the cover's on the back, and of course I can't read a word in it, so I'm not sure what they said about me. They probably said, crazy little hyper guy, not catch many big fish.
Were you in there? Were you in that episode?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, let's see it. Show the picture. Do you have it where you're in it? Yeah. So this is Basser, which is it's a high quality production Japanese fishing magazine. I don't know how you would subscribe to it, but if you're a fan of professional bass fishing, it is really, really cool. Oh, there you go. Hold on. Let me go full screen to show so people can see all that. Look at that. That's an old school Hartley. Are those all Sego pictures?
No, I had one of their dudes in the boat, and he tracked our whole day, and what I caught and where I caught it was the one Ish Monroe one on Okeechobee.
Really? That's cool. No, I don't know how you would subscribe to that. Like, how would you get your hands on that? Because Sego bringing them into the media trailer at Elite Series events is the only way that I have seen the Basser magazine, but it is by far, like, as far as high quality photos, new techniques that are going on in Japan, cool lures, things like that. Like, if you still like that printed word, that is a magazine that needs to be on your coffee table, even if you cannot read a single word, correct?
Yeah, it's what Bassmasters used to be before the internet. It is extremely detailed. But we have one very important thing we have to cover first. That sign behind you is so perfect today because it is Tracy Hartley's birthday. And the sign behind you has her birthday on it and Hartley under it. So we all must say happy birthday to Tracy Hartley, that nice woman that treated you like family when you were down
Absolutely.
there and even sent you home with some food and some beer for your bachelor pad.
Yes, and she also sent me home with a light for my toilet.
She asks all the time if you use that.
It is currently in there right now. So when I stayed at your and your lovely wife's residence for the Open last year, the first one of the year, you walk into the there you go. Now you're in bass fishing mode, throwing on the Merc hat. Walk into the bathroom and it's like a small disco party going on in the crapper. And it's like got this little thing with all these LED lights that it's motion sensitive. It said so you could have the light off, and then you've got. I mean, it's like a UFO glowing, and I was like, "Dang, that's freaking cool!" She said, "Oh, really?"
Yeah.
And then she got an extra one and sent me home with it. It's in the guest bathroom right now.
They're perfect for when you've had too much to drink, or as you get older and you can't find the bowl in the middle of the night. But yep, she's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I've had 3 blessings in my life. Tracy Hartley, Bass Fishing and Signcom. And Bass Talk Live is one of my blessings. Thank you. When I get a text from you, do you want to jump on the show? It just makes my day. I love spreading my positive mental attitude on a Monday. Everyone's down and out on Monday. You probably fished a tournament yesterday and didn't get enough sleep. And I did the same. I fished way too late last night. And but everything has been wonderful on the Hartley front, except for the EQs. Everywhere else, I seem to catch them, and everywhere else in my life, everything's going great, but stinking it up pretty good in the EQs. I keep finishing in the middle of the pack, and the middle of the pack ends up putting you at the bottom of the list.
I hear you. I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I'm one good, one bad, one good, one bad. So I'm due for a good one at the home pond on Eufaula next week. I've only. This is probably the second. I wouldn't even consider Grand like a home pond, and I wouldn't Eufaula, but I'm very familiar with it. I fished it for the past 12 to 15 years. I love that fishery. I would imagine when the Elite Series went to Lake Erie and some of those, that's the same feeling that you got of, all right, you're on my pond now, boys.
Even better, there's not much history on Eufaula, so that should even be more of an advantage to you, Matt. There's not a lot of research we can do on that fishery, and it's a massive fishery. It's kind of the first time we went to Santee Cooper, I felt that way because that's where our club had taken all our spring trips, and we had never been there. Bass had never been there, and there wasn't any information or internet back there. So it's kind of neat knowing the lake before anyone else knows it. It doesn't mean you're going to do well, but it certainly helps your confidence. You know your way around, and most of us don't even know our way around, and I hear it's a giant fishery.
It is. You just got to focus on finding the deep hydrilla and milfoil, Charlie. That's the key to Eufaula.
I want to thank.
That's a joke. There's not a stitch of grass on that pond.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I paid no attention to you. I want to thank all the fans of BTL and BTL. Every tournament we've been at this year, I've had at least a dozen people say my favorite BTLs are when you're on, and I say, "Oh man, I enjoy doing it so much," and they go, "That's why." We enjoy watching you. We can tell how much you enjoy BTL and fishing, and wonderful. Thank you for having me on again. Like you said, it's been an exciting couple of weeks. We just got to see Brock Mosley knock it out of the park. You know, when I picture a Bass Pro, and I am old school. I do like Matt Robinson. I do like Seth Feider, but when I picture a Bass Pro, he looks like Brock Mosley holding that trophy, doesn't he? I mean, that's a man's man right there. That's a stud. He's a family man. He's clean cut. He's well built. He's a good looking guy. He just goes about his business. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up to be a Bass Pro, and he's the perfect image of that. He looked like King Kong when he caught that big one the second day, man. He looked at that camera and he could have beat his chest like King Kong, man. It was a well-deserved win. He's one of the nicest guys on tour. I know I say that about a lot of people, but he's gone out of his way to talk to me and pump me up when I needed it, and I do the same for him. Great guy. Great guy.
I was not aware that Brock had 5 second place finishes on his resume, and that was actually in the Bassmaster article. I think Bassmaster has done a great job lately with the writers and the coverage that they've had online with the photo galleries, not only in the Open ZQs, but also on the Elite Series. But 5 second place finishes for Brock. Now, I know that he'd come close a couple times, but I didn't realize it was that number. And I mean, that's got to start to weigh on you when you know you're knocking on the door that close. And then to do it on such a volatile fishery like this Sabine, where it's not like he had a honey hole that he ran into and caught them all. I mean, he was mixing and matching 45 minutes apart on a variety of different baits. I mean, he turned it into kind of a thinking man in a decision game instead of just get to your spot and grind it out, which is also impressive. He
just plain outfished 100 and other anglers on the same water. It's not like you could run to some secret hidey hole this year. I don't know. I watched every second of live. I got mentioned on live a couple of times. I got a bunch of texts. You better turn on live. They're talking about you. But I don't know if you saw Matty Wong go by him and give him a fist bump. And I was like, ooh. And someone said, I'm glad that wasn't Hackney. He was fist bumping. But he just handled it like a pro, dude. He just handled it like a pro. He handled his second places like a pro. And everyone says, oh, you'll eventually win one if you're going to come in second that many times. What you really think in your head is, how many more opportunities will I have, to be in the top five? You start worrying that if I could be in the top five times and not pull it off, you really start worrying how many more opportunities you'll get. He's going to get a lot more opportunities. He is an excellent fisherman. And the Elite Angler of the Year race is really matching up pretty neat, isn't it, Matt?
It really is. It's an interesting top 10. Actually, a couple tournaments ago, I went through it, and I think that there were only, at the time, almost halfway through the year, there were only 2 anglers in the top 10 that were in the top 10 at the end of last year in the top 10. But if you look at the Angler of the Year, you have Kyle Welcher, who I'm recording with Kyle later this week during the Open on Eufaula. The Welcher episode will air. Incredibly talented angler. Welcher, Cobb, Cox, Rivette, and Cook are the top 5. Now, Rivette's obviously having a real resurgence in his career, having a great year. He's been Mr. Consistency, but we've seen what he did earlier this year. But you want to talk about some shallow water, down and dirty, gritty fishermen that have taken advantage of the schedule. Welcher, Cobb, Cox, Rivette, and Cook. I mean, there's a couple others. Obviously, you could throw a Hackney, a Swindle, those guys in there. But as far as guys that you're going to put at the top, that's a really dang good list right there. And now they got 3 events up north. They got a 6-week break to think about being in the top 5, I believe. And then they've got to go to 3 fisheries up north where we have seen the guys who catch them, and the guys who struggle typically struggle. So I think we're in for a real horse race in the last section of this year.
Yeah, amazingly, going up north is almost like going to Florida. It's a wild card for some of them, and some of them it's like, oh, I can't wait to get there. This is what I do. It's very unique fishing. And some of the southern guys adapt to it right off. Some of them struggle just like we do in Florida for a long time. But it's interesting. We also need to mention Keith Pouchet getting a lot of airtime there again at Sabine. I think he got disqualified at one of our opens. That has been very controversial. Even Mercer tiptoeing around the Keith Pouchet comments, and everyone wants to know where he is and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a great story.
I would tell you where he is, but he blocked me on social media, Charlie. I literally haven't said anything bad. I've had him on like 3 times. Like, if you talk about what started this whole thing, like I had him on to talk about the off the grid, and remember he was building a house and a construction. I've been like nothing but supportive. I didn't know what I said. I must have said something that ticked him off because it shows up as user not found. When I want to see what he says, I'm upset about it. I'm not going to lie. It hurt my feelings, Charlie.
You're going to run out of people to interview if you keep running your mouth.
I didn't know what I said.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But what a neat story that is, man. I mean, he steps in it without trying to step in it. It's wonderful, though. Fishing's really exciting now. We jumped over to the elites, but we did not wrap up the EQs. I do want to say congratulations to John Garrett. Man, let him make the elites. What a great story that kid is. I think he was first classic, or he qualified for the classic through the Federation at the one I was at Conroe. And we got to become close, and I've got to follow him. And John Garrett is just a class act and a great fisherman. And let's see him qualify for the EQs. I mean, for the elites. Another one that should qualify for the elites that's been so close so many times is Sam George. And he's not far out of it either. So some of these kids really deserve it, man. They've been so close. One dumb break here or one dumb break there. They missed the elites, and hopefully after 9 tournaments, the cream will really rise to the crop, which it has been so far. You got anything else on the elites before we jump to Gunnersville and your unbelievable interview with Jacob Wheeler? Dude, that was absolutely phenomenal. He gave up the juice.
He did give up the juice. Yeah, I have one more One more thing about the elites, about the Sabine before we wrap it up. I think this was the 5th time they've been to the Sabine. I got several emails and messages about why do they keep going to this place? It sucks. The fish are tiny. We're catching more fish in my Wednesday nighter in Indiana and Iowa and Kansas and Nebraska than there are here. And I'm tired of it. Now you are an Ohio River guy. You thrive on the tight fisheries. You look at your wins on the fisheries that you went to on your Angler of the Years in the Opens. And I think you would be a perfect guy to break down to those people who are saying, man, 44.3, 39 pounds for a top 4 finish in 4 days, guys getting jacked up for 14 inchers. That's not bass fishing. What is your response to people who were like, man, this is not what I signed up for when I became an Elite Series fan?
Yep. I've been to the Sabine, I think 3 times, maybe 4. You actually filmed me once when I was doing well up in Taylor's. And I love the fishery because it suits my skills. And I've cashed there and made money there. It's a decision making game. It's not finding this big school of fish with my electronics that no one else could find, and I metered around for 5 days and never made a cast, and I found the mother lode. It's put your head down, put your trolling motor down, and go fish, man. And it's a diverse, large fishery. Even though it's tough, you can spread out some. I think we need one of those on the schedule every year. And it's not just for the fans. I mean, you talk to the pros, they love it. They love a tournament like that. Some of the guys that do good there can't wait to go back. On top of it, the fans there are unbelievable. That city brings it out. We got invited to dinners down there. They just do it right. It's a sportsman's paradise. No, it's not the greatest bass fishing venue in the world, but it's all relative. When you catch a 5-pounder on the Sabine, it makes your day. And I had the good fortune of doing that in an Open. Fished near the Sabine launch ramp, got a limit, ran to Taylor's and caught a 5-pounder, and you just feel like a superhero heading back to the Sabine with that. When you make a call like that, it can change your whole tournament. And you can call it luck, but Brock Mosley wasn't the luckiest guy in that tournament. He was the best fisherman in that tournament. He had people fishing his exact same water. It's not because he threw into a 5-pounder's mouth when it was open. It's because he outfished everyone there, man. It was unbelievable. I love watching it. I'm not going to say I hung on every minute of it like you do when a guy can catch a 10-pounder any cast, but you know, that Greg Hackney style of fishing. Oh, someone we left out, Clark Winlet. How about that? I think they said he was going to be one of the 4th or 5th oldest guy to win an elite. How did Clark Winlet get old enough to be in that category? Clark and I fish together all the time, but it's terrible when someone in their mid-50s could be one of the oldest guys to win an elite. That shows where our age class has gone. But Clark Winlet's as sharp as ever. Wouldn't it be awesome to watch him win another tournament? It was fun watching the old school decision. His decision to go to a spinnerbait after catching them all flipping is why it's not luck. You know, these guys have experience and they know what to do. And it doesn't matter if it's a great venue or a tough venue. The guys that have the most experience and fish the best win. When I won the James River 4th of July week, it was 100 degrees every day. It was miserable and I didn't want to be there. But you know what I told myself, just like everyone said at the Sabine, someone's going to win a tournament. Someone's going to win a Bassmasters and go to the Classic. It may be miserable. These may be little fish, but there's an opportunity here. And we still have 4 or 5 opportunities left to go to a Classic also, Mr. Pangarak. So never forget that win and you're in.
We do. Clark Winlet, I might have mentioned it on the show before, but that second day or the final day of practice at Wheeler, the elites had just come from Lay Lake. They go to Wheeler, and Winlet had a really good tournament on Wheeler. I get there that final morning of practice. Clark had come straight from Lay Lake, and him and Frank Talley are the first 2 at the boat ramp 45 minutes before first light, waiting for safe light to be able to take off. These are Elite Series guys. Clark goes out, he top 10s. Now he comes back. Looks like he had some misfortune in the Sawgrass where he would have given Brock a run for his money there. But you're talking about a guy who's got a Bassmaster Elite Series Angler of the Year title, 3 FLW. The man has nothing to prove, and he is out there in an open 45 minutes before daylight, top 10 in those, coming to top 10 that. On top of it, great dude. I need to get him on the show again. Jeffries has had him on the show. But hey, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, like I said, we are going to talk about, apparently you want to talk a little bit about Gunnersville and Jacob Wheeler. We're also going to talk about Emil Wagner taking care of the home field advantage, 55-11 to win the All-American on Lake Hartwell. And we're going to talk about what could potentially be a historic BPT event coming up starting tomorrow on Cayuga Lake. They let these guys on a little earlier in the year because of the catchway release format. They got the pass or whatever it takes to do that in New York. Who knows? I'm sure there's a lot of permits and stuff you have to get in New York to be able to do anything. But we're going to talk about that live on Tracy Hartley's birthday from the SignCom headquarters. From the SignCom headquarters, it is none other than BTL legend Charlie Hartley. We'll be back right after this.
Perfect.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at shorelineboatandrv.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa. Welcome back, BTL. On a Monday, Charlie Hartley in the house. And if you saw that last little ad there, that is Shoreline Boat and RV. And one of those locations is Tulsa. I will be on location Wednesday morning, 8:30 a.m. from Shoreline Boat and RV in Tulsa with their GM, Brock Enmeyer. Is going to walk us through the store and answer any question that you have related to fiberglass, gel coat, safety, on the water stuff. Hey, did you hit here's how this all started. So I didn't T-bone. I hit the corner of a dock in my old ZX 190 and it went through the gel coat into the fiberglass, Charlie. And it was probably The whole thing was about half the size of a cell. It was significant. It was something that you do not want to do, but I did it. And then I was fishing with Brock, and he had started, this was years ago, right? He had started working for Shoreline, and he's worked his way up. Classic, because he's a good worker. And he's like, dude, I'm not practicing with you for 5 days. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he goes, dude, the water's going to get behind that closet and he's going to cause the boat to delaminate. And I'm like, really? And he's like, absolutely. So he brought out the little patch kit for the fiberglass pack, mixed it up and painted over it. And I was like, dude, I wonder how many guys are driving around like that. Also, like, we have questions about oxidation. Let's say you bought a used boat or a new boat. You have insurance questions, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to be at Shoreline, new sponsor of BTL in 2023. Couldn't be happier. And then we're going to do another show towards the end of the year from their new facility in Kansas City.
I'll be watching that. I'm not. I don't have enough info on fiberglass repair and when we should get stuff done. And I'd be lying if I said I don't run into things all the time.
No,
matter of fact, Elk River, second day of practice, my brand new boat. I mean, literally 3 days old. I tore the skeg off it on a floater and just made me sick to my stomach. I waked for 2 more days, scared I was going to hit something. But yep. That's going to be an interesting show, Matt, because we all do damage to our boats all the time. Bass fishermen more than any recreational boater, because just like the commercial says, we're trying to access that secret creek or that secret.
Hey. I also want to just say to you, like, I have seen, so I have 280,000 on my Chevy, and I'm on my 3rd transmission. I love the truck, but I've gotten to the point now, and I think everyone can relate. You don't really notice other vehicles until it's time to get a new vehicle, and you start looking around at what you want, and then you start seeing them on the road. And I'm trying to figure out. It's been a task so far. But Charlie, that black truck that you have in the parking lot right now, every single time, if I don't see it from the back, I'm like, dang, that's the truck right there. And every time I get behind it and it's yours, I think you got the best looking truck. One of the best looking trucks in the parking lot. Just saying that right now, whenever I see it at the EQs.
That was my goal. But to be honest with you, I went to get another Yukon, and they even made them smaller again. Now they look like minivans. They're really made for soccer moms now. And the last couple I had, I literally tore the transmissions out of, the transfer cases out of. They just not made to tow every day. They're fine to take the ski boat to the local lake on the weekend. And I had buddies for years tell me if I ever got a diesel, I would never go back. And I didn't want a diesel. They were loud. They were smoky. Well, the new ones are not loud. They don't blow out black smoke. You don't have to start them a half hour early at the hotel and wake everyone up. It's quiet. It's fuel efficient. It's the best tow vehicle I've ever owned, hands down. It's the first time in years I felt my truck was heavier than my boat. You don't know that boat's back there. That diesel will literally light up the tires. You could have all 4 tires come off that trailer and you'd never know it. You'd just keep towing down the road, not even swaying an inch. And I've done it a couple. I haven't had all 4 go, but I've had a couple go and you don't even know it till the next gas stop. That truck is fabulous. It's the GMC AT4 2500 HD diesel, and it is a beast. I just put I'm up to 43,000 miles on it already, and it is the best tow vehicle I've ever owned. But thank you for the compliment. I never wanted to be a pickup guy, but they just don't make those SUVs heavy duty enough for daily towing. They just don't.
Good stuff. All right. You mentioned before that you had some thoughts on Lake Guntersville and Jacob Wheeler, his BTL interview, and his 6th BPT win a couple weeks ago on Lake Guntersville. The floor is yours.
Yeah, just like with Kevin, we're like, where's Jacob? Oh, he must be washed up. Oh, he hasn't won in a couple tournaments. Boom. I mean, what the heck? Is that guy unbelievable? And when you talk to him on an interview, you can see his mind going at a whole different dimension than the human brain. He's a very unique individual. Almost Aaron Martin's unique, but in a different way. He is a 1%er. I mean, when you meet him, he's a different cookie, a good cookie, but a different cookie, man. And he is light years ahead. Unbelievable that you think that bait could make that big a difference when there were that many people fishing the same water. And we both know it wasn't the bait, it's the guy holding the bait. You know, I had a co-angler once that said, what'd he tell me? He goes, man, no wonder you like throwing that bait. You know, it must be that rod you throw it on. It goes in there real nice. And I go, yeah, it must be the rod. You know, it must be the rod. It must be the bait. And we both know better. We all got baits. We all got rods. That guy he knows what fish are doing. He seems to know what fish are doing more than the fish do sometimes.
Now, I will say this, Charlie. I talked to Jacob off the record after that show, and he did say it was the bait, but then he also, I said, it's kind of weird that to me that you're throwing it on like a 7 foot and the spinning rod and all that. He said, you have to learn how to fish that bait and move it correctly to trigger the bite. So what the deal was yes, it was the bait, but it was what Jacob was doing with the bait that allowed him to get those bites. And he really wasn't too keen on going into the details on what he was doing with the bait, which I think is a lot of the times. I remember watching or listening to I can't remember where I heard it. It was either another podcast or a deal, but it was Kevin was never a huge fan of guys zoning in and taking video of his hands while he worked his moving baits, whether it be a crankbait, a spinner bait, a jerk bait, or whatever. And it wasn't because it was he was throwing a good bait that got bit, but because what he was able to do with that bait, with the reel and rod that generated more bites, and he didn't want to give that up. And that's just a little something. If you go watch him fish, I'll leave it at that. I mean, you guys, if you're listening or watching, you know what I'm talking about, Charlie. It's not a cast and crank retrieve.
No, and we've all been in a boat where you've got the exact same bait on as your co-angler, and he's catching them 5-1, and it's not the bait, it's not the line test, it's not the magic wand, it's the magician holding the magic wand, and that's what makes a fisherman a fisherman. That's why some guys are fishy. That's why some guys catch fish. There's a sixth sense there that not everyone has, but it was amazing to watch him work like that. It was he's incredible.
Let's go over to Lake Hartwell, one of my favorite ponds. Well, it is my favorite lake in the country. A couple people have asked me that, right? Like, hey, what's a favorite lake that you fished? And it is unequivocally, without question, Lake Hartwell and that South Carolina area around there. If I had to move anywhere else outside of Oklahoma, I would move to that part of the country and Lake Hartwell.
I call that Lake Hartley because Tommy Sanders messed up several times during that broadcast and said, here we are back at Lake Hartley. But yeah, it suits you, Matt. It suits your skills. I mean, you talked about it when you made the cut in that open. You knew after practice, you're like, yeah, everything's just how I thought it would be. I'm going to be fine.
Emil Wagner, 25-year-old, local angler, fished a lot there. $120,000. I think he gets into Red Crest now. He qualifies for the Toyota Championship. He wins the All-American on Lake Hartwell, 55-11. It's interesting what you mentioned about it's what the guys are doing with the bait. Typical blueback herring style stuff. He figured out a little something different that wasn't exactly on the cane and the brush, but more on the drop. Spent a lot of time graphing out there. But what he was able to do with a fluke, with the moving baits, the top water baits, to get the job done. And gosh, I'm getting old enough now too, to where I could appreciate how cool it is for a guy to be 25 years old and have this opportunity in his life and career and everything on the plate in front of him.
That All-American has made a lot of professional fishermen. You always give it the props it deserves. It does not get enough attention. That when we were younger, that was the tournament you fished Redman for, was to go to All-American. You know, years ago, they had All-Americans in Hawaii where they had boats out there. Were you aware of that?
No.
Yes, no joke.
No.
I guarantee you they had an All-American or a BFL champion or a Redman. I'm thinking All-American. Actually took rangers out there on a freighter or something, and there's one freshwater lake in Hawaii. I'm almost confident I didn't make that up. But it is a prestigious tournament. You list all the time all the guys that have fished it, and it has actually launched careers. I mean, Joe Thomas, Rick Plunn won the All-American, Stephen Browning, you list them all the time. There's all kinds of, you're looking, aren't you, for a Hawaii bass tournament? I'm almost sure.
No, I remember something. You might have been the one who brought it up before. I remember vaguely something on BTL as someone bringing that up, and I was just as shocked then. I might have to do a little more research on that. I would love to find that and have someone who was a part of that.
But it has lost a lot of its glimmer, but it still is an incredible tournament. I know that Jesse Wiggins did well in it, and who couldn't be a Jesse Wiggins fan? That kid's just a good old fisherman. I love him. I think he came in 5th, but yep, the All-American's an incredible tournament. I fished many Red Man regionals. I never finished high enough to make the All-American, but it was super cool to fish the Red Mans and then get to qualify for a regional and then have an opportunity at the All-American.
Yeah, that is such a cool event.
I don't want to go ahead.
No, I just said that is such a cool event. The All-American there, you see him there. He's got his family up there holding it with him. The big BFL All-American trophy, and to kind of follow that up along the lines with the Chamber of Commerce and what they're doing in South Carolina on Lake Hartwell, the Bass Nation Championship, kind of the last Bass Nation Championship before they go to a 250 boat field. This is the one from every state. It just was announced that it's going to be there this fall, which means I wish I hadn't fished the Opens and had literally just tried to qualify for that one. Cause that hurts.
They do it up right at that lake. They do it right at South Carolina. They've really brought a lot of tournaments there. You know, prior to that first classic, it wasn't a regular stop, but I'd hate to guess how many times we've been at Hartwell and the other circuits have. You know, the last couple of EQs have been like memory lane for me, Matt. We had Bugs Island, which was one of the very first time I was on Bassmasters TV show. We had Lake Wheeler, where that's where I tapped off winning the Southern Opens and qualifying for my first classic, and Toledo Bend. So much history there. It's so neat to go to these lakes we haven't been to in years. I have so many memories, but they're also way too old and they haunt me during practice. But I've really been impressed with how Bassmasters has done running these EQs and the amount of media we're getting and the stories they're doing. And Hank Weldon couldn't do a much better job. I mean, it's going really well. They're running a heck of a good circuit.
I agree. And like I said, I don't think that any tournament director gets enough credit for running a tight ship, a good circuit. Actually, when on Wednesday, Brock's a tournament director for some local stuff around here, and we're going to talk about what makes a good local tournament because they run a good one. Him and TJ run a really good one. So we're going to talk a little bit about what makes it. But then, I mean, you extrapolate that up, and now you're making decisions based on guys' careers, futures, financial stability, although it shouldn't be. I mean, there's guys whose decisions, and then especially this year, it just seems like it's just controversy after controversy after controversy after controversy. And those folks, those are just the ones you hear about. You don't hear about the 10 or 15 that get brought to them that are dealt internally, rightfully so, shouldn't be public. But I mean, it's a very stressful job. I will say though, with Hank, with his pedigree, with Tripp and what Tripp did, Hank knew what the hell he was getting into before he took this job. He knew 100% what he was getting into. But I think he's handled everything incredibly well on the Opens EQs. And the fact of the matter is when you got all the co-anglers too. So you're dealing with 400 plus guys in an individual sport that are all trying to get the edge, that are all trying to do as much as they can to win. You're going to have some disagreements. That's all it comes down to. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Sometimes stuff just happens.
I had the leading co-angler the first day at Wheeler, and you had him at Toledo Bend when you put the hook in your finger. I believe he caught a large fish out of the back of your boat that day. He told me he caught a big one when he fished with you. But unfortunately, I had a brand new boat at Wheeler, and I was experiencing the new boat blues. Took delivery on a boat with only 1 week between opens, and I knew that was a bad idea, but it was kind of how it had to happen. And I took a new boat to Wheeler that I didn't have the bugs worked out of, and had to fish near the ramp, which wasn't the end of the world for the co-angler. But then my live wells didn't work, and on top of him only having one fish, I killed his one fish. I killed his dream.
Oh, you drew the young kid that's fishing all of them
all day, and the kid was wonderful about it. But
you drew that young kid who's fishing all of them. He's like 19. He won. You always ask him, "Oh, how'd you do in the last one?" And he's like,
points.
"I'm leading the points. I won the last one. I've made $40,000 this year." And it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, good for you. Let's have a good day now." That's how he did it with me. And then like fifth cast, he catches a 7-2. Just train wreck for me from then on. Not in a bad way. He was a great kid. I had nothing bad to say about it. I mean, we're not going to sit here and trash on it. He's a good fisherman. He deserves it.
He's a great kid. He took it in stride, and then the next day he got Dave Kilgore, and he didn't catch anything, and I just felt so terrible for him. I know. But I do talk about the restrictions in New York. I ran home from Wheeler and got to jump in the boat with Michael Simonton up at Lake Erie for a Lake Erie Bass Challenge tournament. And during this month in Ohio, we're only allowed to keep one bass each per angler over 18 inches. So it was going to be a 2-fish tournament, 2 bass per boat. And it was such a pleasure to jump in the boat with Michael. I just bring my drop shots and a swim bait and say, "Lead the way, Michael." And he puts me on them. And we ended up having 2 smallmouth for 10.65 and came in third. It took over 11 pounds for 2 smallmouth, but this fishing at Lake Erie has been off the hook, dude. I went back the next weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and slept in the truck for 3 nights because hotel rooms are like $380 to $400 a night up there right now, and I refused to pay it, but stayed there 3 or 4 days Memorial Day weekend until my fingers were so raw they were bleeding, and then ran back up this weekend for a couple of days before the wind started blowing. But the smallmouth fishing's been off the chain. I won the first Alum Creek Salmonoids Open when I got back from Florida, and then I won the Mega Bucks on Alum Creek with my little buddy Jeremy Reese. So my local victories have been wonderful, and the guys are joking because I show up with my new boat, and they said, "Oh, that's why you're fishing the local tournaments. You got to pay for that new boat." I said, "No, that's not why, but it doesn't hurt at all." But it's really fun to fish those solo, Matt, and not have to split those winnings. That's kind of more profitable that way.
It is. I've actually had a good run too. I fished with Austin Cranford, who just got third. I fished with him on Thursday night, and I'll say it on air. It's interesting when you get in the boat with someone who is oozing confidence, and he's had a really good string locally. Now, he hasn't had the best Opens EQ, but he just came off a 3rd place finish. He's been catching them big time. He fishes almost every single day, and I had not fished with him before, and you get in the boat, and it's I mean, you know what it is. When you get in the boat with someone who just knows they're going to catch them, you can't even really describe it or explain it. But that was the first time I'd been in the boat with someone in a hot minute who literally was like, "I don't know how we're going to catch him tonight, but we'll friggin' catch him because I'm on fire right now. It doesn't matter how." And, everyone at the end of the tournament, we had like 3 for 12.5 and 1. It was a 3-fish limit. Everyone was like, "Oh, you had Austin was scoping all those fish and stuff." And we're like, dude, we smashed him on like 6 different baits doing 5 different things. He'd be like swim jig, boat flip 3, live scope 5-pounder, brush pile 3-pounder, up in the grass. But it was just cool to watch a dude. Now I did add 2 4-pounders that we ended up weighted. He had the big fish, but it was cool to watch a dude who had supreme confidence and not really sure how he was going to do it, but knew he was going to get it done.
We always joke when we fish a buddy tournament together, I wasn't keeping count how many of my fish were in the 5 we weighed. Who's keeping count? You all are keeping count. You know that. We're all keeping count. But it is a a privilege to be in the boat with a competent fisherman. You know, a lot of times you fish in a buddy tournament and you feel like you're the pro and you got to carry the weight, and it's a lot of stress. But when you have a guy in the boat that you know is good at what he does, it's like, I don't have to make first cast at that. That guy right there knows what he's doing, and he can land it just as well as I can. The funny part is in these buddy tournaments is how terrible we are with a net. I mean, we look like two monkeys chasing around a football. It's crazy how we try to net those fish. I mean, we are so unskilled at it. I'm used to having people net my fish. I'm not used to netting.
Yeah, I'm the same way with that. But I mean, let's be honest. When you get into these buddy tournaments and you catch one that the ones that you know you are going to go to the weigh-in. I don't care how many it is. Like I did it yesterday with Robert DeGraffenreader, as I like to call him, Bobby D. And you put one in the boat and it was like a 3 3/4. I was like, all right, my job is done here. I've contributed to the sack. And you're way more or less likely. Like, I know that's not the right way. You should be you should go killer instinct, killer instinct.
That's what I say.
But it's always nice when you're like, all right, I did my damn job. Something that I caught is going to the weigh, and I don't care if he catches all the rest of them. At least it's not going to be him calling his buddies on the way home going, damn, I could have fished that one by myself. I had to split it with this guy. All he did was net him for me. I mean, that's the truth, though. I think every single person does that.
No, fishing's competitive. Mike Worm gave a seminar once, and I use this all the time. Fishing's competitive. You love your mom, but when you go fishing with your mom, you want to beat her. You want to beat her bad, don't you?
I know you have sign comp business to attend to. Before I let you go, and then we'll come back and talk about what we got going on for the next of the week. Look what I got in my hands there.
Yeah, I heard. I saw him out on Instagram bragging about him.
Look what else I got.
Oh, you got the goods. The crappie goods.
We'll talk about that stuff after the break, but I did want to get your take on Cayuga. You know, the magic of being up north. Are they going to set all kinds of records? And what's your experience with Cayuga? I know you're an Ohio guy, but I mean, you've been around in New York a minute or two.
I fished an elite, maybe two on Cayuga and an open or two. I think it was last year or 2 years ago in a major league fishing, Dakota E-Bear caught an animal. Wasn't it 8 pounds or something? Yeah,
crazy. 8-pound smallmouth. It was when
which is a unicorn. That's a unicorn, guys.
On the Every Fish Counts. That was when I realized the Every Fish Counts was a bad format. When you catch an 8-pound smallmouth and it counts for 2 4-pound largemouth.
Yep, it's going to be fun to watch. It really is. That tournament was the first time smallmouth really played. If you'll remember, I think his name's Justin Connell, ended up running away with it after everyone weighed largemouth every day. He'd been holding those smallmouth spots back, and he exploited the smallmouth fish in there. No one was even going after him prior to that. It's going to be a great tournament to watch. That lake does not fish big. It'll fish a little bigger now that they chase the smallmouth, but that lake is not that big and it doesn't fish that big. I saw during practice they had some severe wind. If they have wind, it'll really hamper the tournament. They can cancel days on that lake. It can get atrocious. But there's an opportunity to see another smallmouth like that. And guys, I got news for you. I've caught hundreds of thousands of smallmouth, and a 6-pounder's rare. A 7-pounder's a unicorn. An 8-pounder doesn't even exist. I mean, it's amazing. I go to weigh-in after weigh-in after weigh-in, and seldom do we see a 6-pound smallmouth. That's why that 10-pound Lake Erie smallmouth was such a freak of nature. But it will be great to see Cayuga. The gobies got in it about 10 years ago, and that's why the fish are so damn big. Before I go, I do want all the Bass Talk Live fans to put some extra strong karma together for our buddies Hallman and Soakup. They could use your support more than ever, man. They're up at the elites. They're taking their licks, and it's time for them to turn the corner. So everyone think positive thoughts for Bradley Hallman and John Soakup. I believe it's pronounced Soakup.
It took me about 5 years before one time we were just sitting around and John's like, you've been mispronouncing my last name for the last decade. And I was like, no. Dude, it's such a weird sport mentally because, you look at John, he's got 2 NPFLs. He's got multiple top 10s in the opens. You know that he's a top 50 angler on the Elite Series. You look at Hallman, he's got almost $1 million in earnings, 2 FLW wins, Toyota Series win, multiple top 10s previously on the Bassmaster Elite Series. It's his second stint around. And you can't ignore it because they're at a professional level. We'll talk about it. They're both sitting below 100th in the Angler of the Year, right around 100th in the Angler of the Year standings after the first 5. And it's scary to think about how mental the game is because their skill set and knowledge base is deep and vast. And it brings up Mike Icadelli's Fish the Moment, Kevin Van Dam's or the Fish the Moment and the Never Give Up. Kevin Van Dam's It's All About the Attitude. Brandon Polinick, you look at all these guys and their catchphrase and what they talk about is what's going on in between the ears. But the good thing, and I'll say this before I let you have the last word on it, Charlie, and you get back to the business at hand, is this is one of the only activities, sports, whatever, where you're 3 days away from completely rewriting your year, your season, and your story. You are just a couple days away from looking at something completely freaking differently.
That's the greatest thing about tournament fishing. We all get to start over the first day of a tournament at 0, and there's going to be a new hero. Every tournament there's going to be a new hero, but confidence is fragile. And when that confidence gets shattered, it's hard to put Humpty Dumpty back on the wall again, man. When your confidence is down, you don't believe you can catch them. I heard Mr. Hallman say on the stage that I even tried fishing places where I thought there weren't fish because I've already tried everywhere where I think there are fish. And when that happens, man, you got to start over. I'm not teasing him at all. I've been there, buddy. It's a terrible place to be. But remember who you are. You're a great fisherman, and just go out there and be a great fisherman, man, because it'll eat at you. When you're a bass fisherman and you don't do well, there's nothing right in the world, even if everything else is right in the world. So everyone root for them guys and send them some PMA, some positive mental attitude. Matt, I can't thank you enough for having me on the show. I love being on the show. I've been carrying that jersey around for you. Just find me next tournament.
I know we haven't ran into each other. It's been crazy. Like I've seen you every time. And now that you've got a jersey that goes on the wall, I haven't seen you the last 3 events.
It's on purpose. I think I'm teasing you.
No. All right, Charlie, thank you very much for jumping off BTL. As always, one of the regulars, one of the fan favorites, and brings a great perspective on a number of different things, and just a big fan of the sport. I like talking with people who are fans, like Wheeler. Wheeler's a big fan of the sport. Jordan Lee, big fan. There's tons of guys out there. You don't realize how big of bass heads that they are. And then you start talking to them and you realize they're, following every BFL, every Toyota Series, Bass Nation in their home state, and they're really dialed in. And you're one of those guys who's really dialed in and loves it.
Thank you. I wouldn't know what else to do, man. I love it. Keep making great shows, man. Get those replays posted.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, buddy. Love it.
See ya. All right.
Great day.
We'll do. That was Charlie Hartley, the one and only Charlie Hartley. Once again, happy birthday to Tracy Hartley, his better half. I said I stay with them down there in Florida, and they sit around and watch. I don't know if they still watch Jeopardy every single night. They watch Jeopardy every single night and cook dinner and have a time. So, all right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, like I said, got Chad Shad, my buddy Juice gave me some cool handmade jigs that he's been making. And we're going to talk about the rest of the week. We have a unique lineup for the remainder of the week on BTL. It's BTL on a Monday. Big shout out to Charlie Hartley. We'll be back right after this.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat. So you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look. That matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves a house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Monday. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time. BTL live. Mark Jeffries returns to BTL in studio for a special evening edition. We have all sorts of giveaways. Really good show last week on the KGB, Chad Shad and their collaboration. We had Kevin and Sid on, the two primary guys from Kevin from KGB, Sid from Spro, talking about the collab with the Chad Shad that's out now. We'll be giving away one of these Tuesday night at 7. We'll also be giving away 6 packs of the X-Zone Stealth Invader drop shot bait. These are a must-have if you are planning on doing anything smallmouth related this year. Ned, drop shot, little swim bait head. Can't wait to try these out up north on Thousand Islands. And then also the Denali Novus Pro Reel. Highly impressed so far with these. Now, I haven't had them long enough to see how they last, how they stand up, but so far, super smooth, super impressed. Long cast, light bait. If this wasn't true, I just wouldn't say anything about them because, anyway, highly impressed. We're going to give someone a chance. The Novus Pro, that's kind of their middle of the line. There's the Novus Pro, and the Novus Elite. Give away a Novus Pro Reel on Tuesday. If you guys are listening live. And then Wednesday, like I said, on location, if you guys have anything, fiberglass, insurance, RV, boat, anything related questions, you can ask those questions, Matt at basszone.com. I will get those to Brock, the GM of the Shoreline Boat and RV store. Also going to talk a lot about tournaments with him too. Because like I said, he runs a good show. And then I just wanted to show this. This really has nothing to do with anything on the show, but my buddy Juice, long story short, his name's Jarrett. In college, one of our other buddies heard the name Juice Newton. We started calling him Juice Newton. Then we found out it was a female country singer. So then it really stuck. So now we all call him Juice Newton. But he got into tying jigs. And I know that there's like, just like there is a big underground swim bait cult, there's a cult in like high-end crappie jigs, which, you know, is I've kind of had an affinity for the last 2-3 years. If you listen to BTL, like I'd probably rather go crappie fishing than do anything else in life right now. But Juice the other day stopped by and he dropped off. Now this is cool. These are the Gamakatsu boxes that have the foam and then the slits in it, so you can put all the jigs. They're actually meant like for treble hooks and other things like that, but super slim. Highly recommend ordering these if you want to put treble hooks, jigs. You can keep anything in it, but like, look at it, keeps everything completely organized. So Juice has it. So these are some of Juice's jigs. I kind of helped him with the name of that too, but he hand ties all those. So I just thought it looked cool and wanted to show it off, but all sorts of crazy different jigs in there. Like just all sorts of cool little crappie jigs. And then he's going to tie me some marabou jigs with the gammy hooks for up north. You can follow him on Instagram if you want. Juice's Jigs, I think. Let me look it up and make sure. So what he's doing is pretty unique actually too. So instead of selling like individual jigs, he's selling it's literally just him tying them in his garage, one of my college buddies, but he's selling like, you can buy like a box like this for anywhere from like $100 to $200. And it includes this box and everything. And you tell him what kind of size and colors you want. And then he'll build the box and then send it to you. And then boom, you're good to go for your crappie box. I think there's some Arctic fox hair in here. There's some pheasant. There's some, but each one is totally different from 16th to 8th. So he sold like 3 or 4 of them so far, but like I said, you get like 30 to 40 jigs in it. I'm not trying to pump it. I just think it was a good idea. Let me see. I think it's just Juices, Juices. Hold on. Yeah, Juices jigs. Juices jigs. There you go. It's got 167 followers right now, but I'm into the crappie stuff. I'm still catching them in the summer. It's not as, it's a lot harder to catch the big ones in the summer than it is in the wintertime. But tomorrow, no BTL in the morning, BTL at night, 7 p.m. Mark Jeffries, bring your bowling shoes, bring your bowling bag. I'm sure he's going to pump the bowling, but dude, he's got a full team. We're going to talk about what he's been up to. He's actually been fishing a lot. Health is good. Everything seems to be rolling with Mark. So I said, dude, I got to get you in the new studio for a live event. And he's like, well, I can do it. His school's over with. He's now the full-time bowling coach at SNU. So Mark will be in. If you have any questions for Mark, save it for tomorrow's show. If you're not going to be able to watch live, you can send your questions in. That way you can still, but like I said, all sorts of giveaways. We got a Chad, Denali, Novus Pro, Real, and some Stealth Invaders from X Zone. And then on location, and then Uncle Frank returns live on Thursday. We can get a rundown of his week in California. Hey guys, do me a favor. If you are watching and listening to this and you are not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That definitely helps. ICAST is coming up. I'm working on contracts for the next year. I never really understood why Jeffrey's always talked about this stuff this time of year, but now I get it because that's what shows the value. Also had a couple listeners who had emailed like companies like, hey, I know you guys support BTL, and those got right back to me. That is massively important. Much appreciated from the BTL listener fan base. If you're supporting the companies that support BTL, and let them know that you heard about them or you're supporting them because of their support with BTL, allows to bring more shows, more content, more live stuff, more on location, more giveaways. You get the idea. All right. Thanks, Charlie Hartley. He's deep in a SignCom meeting right now, but big shout out to Charlie Hartley. Always love when we have him on. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., June 6th. Already we're into another month. Mark Jeffries live in studio. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. See ya.